Hey, it's Simon here. Today I'm going to transform my ugly garage floor into something really special thanks to the guys from Garage Flooring Inc. Check this out. We bought the house 2 years ago and the rest of the house is beautiful, fully renovated. The garage really let it down. One of the issues of where we live is there's a lot of settling, so this type of cracking is normal. I thought about epoxying the floor, but because I work on my car and I use this floor jack, I thought it was going to end up damaged. And I didn't know you could use a jack on a vinyl floor tile. When I reached out to the guys from Garage Flooring Inc., this is what they recommended. This is called a smooth flex tile. It's made in the USA, can handle a jack, and it's got a 12-year warranty, so you know it's going to last. I've got everything laid out that I think I'm going to need for the job. Starting with this 4.5-inch masonry diamond tip grinder for the floor. I don't want to leave that rough edges on the floor, so I think this is going to be a good way of just smoothing them down and getting rid of some of the high spots. Some concrete repair. Obviously this is a good thing as well, just to ensure that if there's any gaps and cracks we can fill those in. That's something they recommend from Garage Floor Inc. Obviously safety glasses as well, can't be too safe. Now because that floor is uneven, I expect some of the tiles will want to sit up in the corners, so I've got a couple of options. I've got some Scotch outdoor carpet tape. This is double-sided tape, specifically designed to work in outdoor situations where there may be moisture, and also onto concrete as well. Some 3M high-strength contact adhesive. Don't know if I'm going to need that, but just good to have it in case. A decent utility knife, because we have to cut all of these tiles to go around the edge manually. A good straight edge, a good square as well to cut those tiles, some Sharpies to mark them, some masking tape, because later on I'm going to want to run a straight edge along the front of the garage door so I know where to tile up to. We'll talk about that a little later. A tape measure with metric, because it's much easier to divide decimals of 10 than it is to work with fractions. So metric all the way. And then finally some purple power cleaner. I want to clean the flooring up once again, just so we get better adhesion for that double-sided tape, but also so there's a nice clean substrate to work on. When you look at my garage, there is a definite line along the front of the concrete here. It's been painted in the past, as has the floor, and the paint's peeled, so we want to get rid of that. But I don't want the tiles going outside the garage because there's a risk obviously of fading, and I want a nice straight edge right at the front divided by the middle tiles. So what I'm going to be doing is starting in the front corner and working out either side. The other reason I'm going to do that is you walk around the garage, you'll notice it's not perfectly square or rectangular. There's an edge along here which juts in over there, and then around into the laundry area. So there's a lot of cutout areas, so there's not a place to get a nice straight edge in the sides or the corners. I figure if I start at the front, you're going to end up with a nice, clean, smooth edge along the front, which is where you see it first. And then it's going to be a little bit more forgiving around those other areas which aren't straight. A couple of other things I've had to think about: the water softener. Ideally, I would have liked to have lifted it and tiled underneath. I went to move it. This thing is all piped in with very, very old copper pipe joins. I don't want to start messing with that because the last thing I need is water leaks. So what I'm going to do is tile around it. The bottom line is it's up against the wall anyway. I would have had to cut those tiles anyway, so I think I can do a really neat job around there. When it comes to the front, I'm going to run along the edge that you can see along here, and I'm going to work forward, and rather than taking that heavy bench out all the way out of the garage, I'm actually going to wait till I get up to it. I'm going to disassemble the top, split it into two sections, and then move it onto some cardboard onto the area that I've already tiled, so that I'm not having to move it further than I really need to. Then once I've tiled to the front, I can put it back into place, reassemble it, everything's done. First thing I'm going to do is clean up this ugly edge along the front here. That's going to be exposed when the tiles meet up to it, so I want that to look good. I'm going to see if I can clean the concrete up. If I can't do that, I'm going to get off that old paint and repaint it. Next up, I'm going to work on some of these deep gouges in the garage to try and get them flat. When I did the one at the front before, it sent a ton of dust out over the cars into the neighborhood. So I'm going to close the garage door and, importantly, put on a respirator as well so I don't fill my lungs up with concrete dust. Once I finished taking all the peaks off the cracks of the concrete, I realised there was a lot more damage than I first thought. So I went and got this. This is Rust-Oleum Concrete Patch and Repair. It's a 2-part epoxy. It will help me fill in all of these low patches in the concrete. floor's looking a lot better now. Those areas that were cracked have all been filled. They're not perfect, but remember, there is tiling going over the top of this. As long as they're flat, as long as the cracks are filled, as long as there's not high points going to hold the tile up, that's what we're after. So in this case, everything's been brought down to a very even level. Next up, I've taped off the other side of that area at the entrance that's not going to have the tiles, so I can give that a coat of paint. Now that the epoxy's dry, we can start hammering along the edge using a mallet. You simply interlock the pieces. As we can see underneath this one, it's got the opposite piece. Lay them on top, and we can start hitting them into place. Now that double-sided tape is in place, we've left the backing on. We're going to use it as a straight edge to line up the tiles between the two openings on the door. Once all the tiles are in place, we'll lift up the edge, peel it back underneath the tiles, and then stick them down. Now this front part is done. It's time to go on to cutting some tiles to go in the edges. I'm going to use a sharp utility knife with a backing board so we don't cut through onto the concrete. Now the first row is complete, contoured around the water softener along the front. Now one of the things you need to remember is to leave at least 1/4 of an inch around the edges so that it can expand and contract and doesn't buckle in the middle. I'll probably go around and seal that with some silicone afterwards, but honestly it doesn't look too bad at the moment either. An improvement. Have a look how good this looks. You know, it's not a difficult job. It is time consuming by the time you go along the edges properly, but it's so worth it. I mean, look how it's transformed this space from that ugly, really ugly floor to what it looks like now. Make sure to check out the Garage Flooring Inc. website. There's a configuration tool to help you figure out exactly how many tiles you'll need for your space, plus a range of different flooring options, colors, patterns, anything you could need to turn your garage or man cave into something really, really special.